I'm not a lifting YouTuber. If I ever make a video about how to use cables or machines, shoot me in the fucking head. This video is meant to be so thorough and comprehensive that it's the last lifting video I ever have to make and the last lifting video you ever have to watch. I haven't competed in anything and I don't have any official credentials, yet I can't go to the gym without anybody coming up to me and telling me I'm a fucking beast. Now, the video title may be a little bit deceptive. My deadlift is pretty modest. My bench press is relatively modest. What I've done is I've mastered an obscure and extremely underrated exercise, Zercher squat. If you're not familiar with it, you squat with the barbell in the crook of your elbows. It's a full body exercise. I recommend you give it a try. Now I can sneeze without bruising my elbow.
These are the heaviest Zercher squats ever recorded as far as videos I found that have a name attached to it. There could be more who haven't put videos online. As shown, I identified a total of 11 people who've lifted more than me. Also, this is squats only, starting from the top, and doesn't include the Zercher deadlifter full Zercher variations, although that isn't to say that those are less impressive. My body weight ratio is second only to Kevin Oak, if that number is accurate for the day he did 605. I couldn't find explicit information, but he's supposedly a connoisseur of steroids, for which I ain't, so I think I can claim the best natural ratio.
I also plan to have his ratio beat sometime next year, and if I had waited till then, I could have used a less deceptive title for the video, but I couldn't wait to make this. With all that being said, whether you want to trust me as an authority on the subject is completely up to you.
Thought about a number of ways to structure this video and came to the conclusion that in order to understand my program, first you may need to forget everything you think you know and may have committed to. There's a ton of people out there who reckon that doing Zercher squats will destroy your spine and lifting heavy altogether will just destroy your spine. I cannot attest to that now at my age, so I'll have to make a follow-up video when I'm old. There's infinite possible sequences of lifestyle choices, and every one of them results in your lower back yelling at you. Lifting puts it at risk, sure, but it also strengthens it so that everyday activities put it at less of a risk. It's not the same as your eyes just getting worse over the years. It's got a capacity to heal, but it can just take some time. There's a relatively popular opinion people have that's way too popular, people saying it's unethical and morally wrong to lift heavy because you're risking back pain. I just use a 12 to 35 rep range to cautiously build as much functionless muscle as possible because I'm not egotistical like you. The validity of that notion starts and ends with people who use a comically low range of motion, because in most cases they're making an ass of themselves, and it's valid too for form that's truly egregious, but you don't even see that all that often. The importance of form aside from range of motion is overstated but still important. But the simplest of people on the face of the earth can get their form decent in a matter of months. It's not rocket science. If you want to make it rocket science, more power to you. Maybe you'll be 2% less susceptible to injuries. I've never touched PEDs and never considered it. I don't suppose it's ever worth it unless you've got a very good reason. Maybe if you're doing it for a real fucking sport, because bodybuilding's up there with fishing and billiards and esports. It's a suburban bastardization of exercise, and perhaps powerlifting isn't much of a sport either. Olympic lifting is a real sport. And maybe that's why I've barely dipped my toe in that stuff. It's like when people say they drive a sports car, is the driver or the car itself playing a sport? Maybe the driver is if it's got no power steering, or if it's a Flintstones car. If I go bald in my 20s, it's either going to be cancer or genetics and certain hormone effects that come naturally. While on the subject of safety, always use safety catches. I'm not sure why there's people out there who don't use them. And before you use a barbell, it's good to check for play on each end. Make sure that one side does not slide out more than the other. They should both come out less than like a 1/4 inch. I found that out the hard way twice. A few years ago, one actually snapped off while I was doing RDLs. And about a year and a half ago, I was deadlifting with one of those, and it really fucked up my back, and my deadlift max plummeted. And at the time, I was doing barbell rows and single leg presses, and both of those became too uncomfortable to stick to after that. It's also important to distinguish types of racks. I can bench press less using a rack with like a gradual or abrupt slope than one that's pretty much like a 45-degree angle, because unracking it seems to be less of a fluid motion, but maybe it's just what I'm used to. I might spend a few minutes stretching throughout the day, but should probably do more. I've chronically got knots in my shoulders and neck for some reason. It's like, can you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't really explain it. I can't explain it, but somehow doing that can somehow relieve discomfort in my lower back, even though it's in my shoulders.
On that subject, I was doom scrolling the other day on YouTube Shorts, and there was some really flamboyant gay guy in a mansion, and I just assumed because he's rich I should listen to him. And he said that you should be stretching for at least 4 hours per day.
4 hours per day.
Yeah, and obviously I believed him because he has money, and I'm stupid.
That is 25% of the time you spend awake for stretching.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to get your thoughts on it. You know, I just follow the experts.
So there needs to be a way developed to stretch in your sleep, like sleeping upside down like a bat.
Well, you know, there actually is something you could do about that. You could get one of those like, fuck, what is it? Those like medieval torture bed things, like where they would like lock someone's arms up like this together, and then their legs would be locked together, and then you like turn a crank, and it like pulls the person's body apart and like rips them in half. You could basically lock your legs up to one of that, and then one of your arms, the other arm would have to be free to use the crank, and you have to switch arms each night, and then you just crank it out, and then you're just like this all night, completely stretched out, and you just alternate arms each night, and then I mean that could be a way you could do that.
Tie yourself to 2 horses if you don't have a machine.
Yeah, you could. 2 horses and -40.
Is there anything on the subject matter of steroids to add?
Testosterone replacement therapy is good when you're old, like RFK, because RFK is on TRT as well, and he's like 80 years old, and that's why he has such gigantic, beautiful muscles, because he's on TRT.
That's why he's able to do 3 push-ups in that ad he did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think the only like situation in which I would do it is, yeah, if I was old and I already had all of the kids that I wanted to have, because I would never ever sacrifice like my fertility so that I could be jacked. I would rather be like a stick and be able to have kids than be fucking jacked. So yeah, I would like never do that until I was like 100 years old, and I couldn't.
Yeah, that is
anymore.
a good point. I didn't really think about that. Yeah.
And it also does a bunch of other fucking shit to you too. Like it like bloats your stomach, so like you'll get like it makes your organs bloated or something.
That can happen with growth hormones, not steroids. Like that's what Joe Rogan has, because he used to use HGH, and then yeah, it does something to your intestines.
Like intestines get bloated or something. Yeah.
But that doesn't happen with normal steroids, though.
Oh, okay.
Give you roids rage.
Yeah, it'll make your hair fall out.
Your roids rage and roids depression and melancholy and shit.
Yeah, melancholy. Haven't heard that one in 60 years.
Get! Yeah, get! Now that guy I mentioned earlier who's like pathologically opposed to progressive overload, we can call that your average gym goer for the sake of this argument. And we can put that in a Venn diagram alongside bodybuilders and Planet Fitness. I'll edit that in with special effects. It's unfortunate that your typical gym goer is probably taking all their advice from bodybuilders. And that isn't quite right. Something needs to be said, and somebody needs to say it, that it's a sad state of affairs. From an open, objective, and non-judgmental perspective, the practice and culture known as bodybuilding is fucking flaming. And everybody already innately knows this. And a lot of people get this impression for some reason that they kind of appropriate the terminology surrounding physical fitness, which is problematic. And I know this is a hard pill to swallow for some people. Maybe you have some kind of commitment to it based on all the time you've spent on it. I don't blame you. I'm not saying this just to be a hater. I'm saying it for your own good. Because sometimes you get too into something until you're too far gone. Like, imagine you're getting prosecuted by a 60-year-old judge who's gonna throw the book at you. Like, are you gonna try and convince him that the laws are unjust, and then he's gonna go reflect on all the lives he's ruined and then blow his brains out? Or is he more likely to just double down and hold you in contempt of court? It's a shame. I know some of them are very cool stand-up guys.
Powerlifting is also vain. Maybe you could argue that the spectacle of an impressive lift is the same as the spectacle of large muscles in terms of vanity, but the dedicated commitment to vanity happens to be commitment to the human's most useless muscle groups. That is what is sinful. And a lot of guys in the gym, especially around my age, are trad-pilled, born-again, holy rollers, and the irony is not lost. You're still partly fulfilling one of your responsibilities as a man by showing up, and you've got a good foundation set, but you've been just unwillingly guided by popular culture into the most popular gym pastime. I've been there too, and you might have adopted an ideological commitment to it, given all of the time you've spent on it. Maybe bodybuilding is good enough for the general population, but it's not good enough for you. You are a goddamn man. I know there are a few bodybuilders out there who can bench double my max, but you need to train to get stronger as a priority, not as a side symptom of degeneracy. I could stand to trim down a bit, but I still look unbelievable compared to anybody like before, like the 80s, when all that became popular, before everybody had access to gyms. If you're getting stronger as a priority, then you could bench triple my max instead of double. You would be less insecure, and you could take more pride in doing that rather than doing lateral raises without engaging your traps, like anybody can tell, like anybody gives a fuck. This is your wake-up call. Just admit to yourself that You've been on a bad path, but at least you're better off than people who don't lift. And reform before you become the guy that's moaning on the leg press machine, and before you start sucking cock. I'm not saying it's inherently gay to admire a man's appearance, but we all know there are other facets. If you're in great shape and have an unfortunate face, no offense, but I'm not casting you in an A-list Hollywood motion picture. My advice to you is you'd better invest in some tasteful menswear, donate your tank top to Goodwill where it belongs. If you're a gentleman of short stature, I'd advise you to start that dwarf maxing trend. Grow a beard, don't neglect your shoulders. You're also more ergonomically adapted to chase numbers. And one more thing, as an adult, you shouldn't be idolizing people and belonging to some sort of cult of personality, like they seem to have. That's almost like having a fucking politician as your hero. It's not a good look. It's one thing to admire or respect a man, but do it within reason.
I think the dwarf maxing message is great. You know, as a 5'3" man myself, I'm always constantly trying to dwarf max, trying to puff up, you know, horizontally on the x-axis so that I can, you know, so that
You
you
want
know,
to be
so that I
5'3"
can
wide
that I can
and tall.
yeah, so that I can overcompensate. I would grow a beard if I could too, but I can't, unfortunately, so I'll have to wait. You know, I'm fucking 21 and I still can't grow a beard, so I'll have to give it a few years or whatever.
There's got to be some kind of variance between with them as a group of 7 or more, or whatever. They can't all look exactly the same.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
If powerlifting's vain and bodybuilding's vain, then what is not vain? Are you a cardio guy now?
What is not? There's not one skill in the world that you can develop from exclusively from doing other exercises that aren't actually practicing a different skill. So what I meant by that is powerlifting has a little bit of utility and bodybuilding has none. In short.
My training style is not optimal. It just goes as far with optimization as I care to understand. It always consists of first the main barbell lift for 3 sets of 1 to 3. Yeah, that's right, 1 to 3. Between sets, give the weights plenty of time to rest before they're ready for you again. Sometimes even 15 minutes if that's what it takes, especially in what you specialize in. You gotta be like a farmer driving a combine harvester on the highway, going like 40 kilometers an hour.
After I spend half the time there on the one thing, there's usually a secondary thing, and everything else is just accessories. When I wrote my program years ago, I was expecting to do progressive overload for every accessory, and I just didn't stick to that. I don't take accessories all that seriously, and if you're like working full time, you probably shouldn't. I bench with a slight arch and wide grip determined by the smooth ridges on the bar. When benching or squatting, always try to blow out your mouth as you're coming up. I deadlift in a conventional stance and can't really pay attention to the breathing technique while doing it. Same goes for overhead press, for which I also do a bit of a hip thrust, a small hip thrust, which may be considered cheating. But am I wrong to think I still benefit just as much from doing it that way, or should I stop doing that? I have stopped for the past few weeks, and I'm trying to do it without the hip thrust. Once you get it past like your eyes, it's your shoulders pretty good.
It's obviously cheating.
Overhead press.
It's obviously cheating. Obviously cheating.
That's cheating.
Well, yeah, because aren't you like giving yourself more momentum instead of just pushing straight up from like the muscle that you're trying to work, like with your shoulders? Like by like shooting yourself up, yeah, you're giving yourself more momentum.
If you're doing a bench press and your spotter like helps you unrack it, it's kind of like that, I guess. That's what I'd compare it to. Like it helps at first.
Well, then
but
if
yeah,
you're
like I said, I'm trying to quit doing that. Most people think arching is not cheating. It's as long as you have the same range of motion and you still touch your chest, then arching is not.
Arching on a bench press, correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't arching on a bench press like hit more of like the upper chest? Like more
Lower chest.
Lower?
Yeah, I think it hits your lower chest more.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. Okay, yeah.
Personally, I'd say it's ill-mannered to grunt, holler, and howl at the gym. The only noise I make is breathing loudly and loudly re-racking weights. Making noise with the weights is nothing to be ashamed of. If you can re-rack the bar silently, your set was not optimal. Unless it was machines, but if you're trying to do that optimally, you're gonna look like a jerk.
Well, and you also have to consider that you're not properly mogging the competition too. If you're re-racking quietly, like you need to bang around. You need to sound like a construction site when you're working on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the fact that you didn't fucking grunt just makes it like a little more humble, but you know that you're aiming to mog everyone still.
Yeah.
One of the most ironic things that has ever happened was I went to a particular commercial gym location. I only went there like once or twice. Their dumbbells went up to a set of 145s, maybe the heaviest dumbbells I've ever laid eyes on. So I took a picture, and I think I was the only person there all alone. I was deadlifting, and the manager came in. He was a Chinaman, incidentally, and would you believe it? He bitched at me for deadlifting and said that old people go there, so deadlifting is forbidden. Old people can't deadlift, but they lift 145-pound dumbbells.
I don't really do weightlifting, and I haven't done weightlifting in a long time. I do have a set of like adjustable dumbbells which I use for things, but I mostly do calisthenics for my exercising, and this is one of the main reasons is because it's easy to do at home, so I can it saves time when you're on like on a schedule, opposed to doing something a little like this. This is Sebastian right here. Whoa, where are we? Opposed to doing something like this where we're lifting balls, we're swinging balls around. I'm a little bit more like this guy right here. This is my workout inspiration, because he just jumps around and he uses his body weight and builds strength naturally like that. So that's more my style because it saves time, and it's I'm still like fit and healthy and whatever.
Calisthenics is really cool, and there's a lot of like different branches to it of
when you're advancing in it, it's not like you're necessarily moving to like heavier weights, obviously, because you're just using your body weight. I guess as you exercise, your body increases in weight, like if you're building muscle and eating more calories. But like so what you do to advance is you just do like different versions of different exercises to make it more difficult. So you do like you'd start off doing like however many push-ups, like just regular push-ups like this, and then when you're able to do like like 25, let's say, then you would move in and try to learn how to do 25 in. Then when you can do in, you go like all the way out and try to do 25 with your arms all the way out, and then at that point you kind of start moving into like one-arm stuff.
Yeah, I see it as like you even to begin with, like all together, it's like pretty impressive things, but you probably have to be careful and creative to not plateau.
Yeah, plateauing is definitely a thing. Like I don't really care because it's not really my goal to like look good naked for other people or for myself. I know that I'm like fit and healthy. You shouldn't be mogging with your physique anyway. You should be mogging with glory.
Yeah, mogging with
an
your
accomplishment.
with your what you do, your achievements, like fucking one-arm pull-ups and shit.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
should
like
mog.
I can do one arm pull up, but like still assisted. I'm still trying to work on doing the full like just one arm one. So I like where I grab my wrist. But yeah, I don't know. Calisthenics is pretty cool. It's monkey maxing. My gym is actually on my balcony, so I just bring my like pull up bar out there and stuff. And on the when I do like the minority of exercises that I do that involve weights, I'll just use my attachable dumbbells. Just get
You should hang on the outside of the balcony.
Oh yeah, I do. At night, when I'm
Jump
drunk.
down to the fucking
Seb, I get
climb
ugly.
onto the other balcony.
Seb, I get ugly drunk, and then I hang off the side of the balcony, and I do pull-ups off of it.
That's beautiful. Cole, do you have anything to say about training styles?
I think that I'm pretty much the same as you, but I don't really have a structured program. I kind of just do what I want to do on that particular day, and then alternate between push and pull.
You have a very postmodern workout routine.
You focus on the big muscle groups first. Like, you don't want to do triceps before bench or something like that, because that's stupid. But I mean,
Right.
like, usually you start off with legs when you have the most energy, and then move on to like chest and shoulders, and then to triceps, and that sort of
Right.
thing. And then for pull days, like, I don't do deadlift or anything anymore because I don't want to kill my back.
I stopped for a while, but like I decided that like I didn't want to give it up, so like I only do like an RPE 8 or 9. Still do progressive overload, but like not that. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, on pull days, it's mostly like I'll start off with something heavy, doing using lats or something like that, like a row, like a heavy row, and then maybe do something like the lat pull down, and then move on to traps and rear delts, and then biceps, and sometimes core. I don't really use leg machines for hamstrings or anything like that. Try to get the hamstrings in with the rows sometimes, but yeah, that's about it.
You have an opinion about like programs that have like a fucking you hit one muscle group on one or two on a day, and there's like a leg day?
I mean, I don't know if it's that beneficial to separate muscle groups into different days, because I think as long as you can recover in 2 days from a push day, then I think it's fine to alternate between push and pull, because you'll have more muscle growth the more frequently you use a muscle. So if you only do chest like once a week or something, you're not going to have very good growth in your chest, and it'd be better if you do push pull and then hit your chest 3 times a week. So as long as you eat enough and have high enough testosterone so that you can recover within those 2 days, then I think it's fine.
Like a year ago, I tried a program like that very briefly. I don't know why I did it, but it had leg day on one day for a week, and like I applied the same like kind of intensity that I do like normally with that, and it was fucking. Anyone doing a program like that should stop immediately.
Yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts on those programs where it's like there's like 25 exercises in the day, and they work out every single muscle in the body every single day? Like, we know, and there's like a rest day, but it's like not super heavy weight, but like every single, but like they're advancing over time. Like everything gets heavier over time. So like but it's like full body workout all the time.
That's
opposed to
probably just like bodybuilding stuff. That's what it sounds like to me, because I don't think you should hit the same muscle group 2 days in a row. I think that's kind of bad, because if you train...
But the thing is, like, they wouldn't, like, with these workouts, they wouldn't be hitting it as hard as you would like a regular workout. It would be like a quarter of that intensity, but doing it every day.
Well, the
and
only
then, like,
way
slowly
they're
getting heavier.
The way that people can progress by doing that is just because you can progress doing anything. That is not optimal, not even close.
Yeah, that'd be like closer to bodybuilding, I think.
Even with a bad program, if you like have the right attitude and you fucking you fucking do it right, like, or at least do some of it right, and then you're gonna progress. And it's like anything is better than nothing.
My program is as follows, and I'll put a link to it in the description. I'll loan it to you for free. Just leave a like on the video and shit. You'll probably notice I deadlift and overhead press on the same day. Both are compound movements, but they kind of hit completely different areas, so I'm not too worn out to do both. The program, like any, is malleable. You can make changes to fit your lifestyle. Part of the reason why it's a 2 days on, 1 day off thing is because I wrote it when I was working full time. I was getting up at 3:45 a.m. to work 11-hour shifts at a fiberglass factory. I still had energy for it in the afternoons. I'm not sure how well you could do it if you're working a ton of overtime. Maybe you can do it, but it seems to me that working too many hours and going to the gym over time will turn you into a very dull individual, but I could be wrong. My battery's dying.
As for what's not even written in bold, those are just accessories, and I even skip them regularly. I'll be the first to say that I'm not much of a runner. I can do like an 8.5 minute mile when I do it. Do either of you guys run?
Sometimes might do like once or twice, once every 2 weeks or so.
I do it like once a week or something.
Yeah.
I don't run, but I go on walks. But for cardio, I do like kind of stationary, like very intense cardio things you can do at home. There's like something I just downloaded on Google Images that says that the Air Force uses it, whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean. But it's like a like high intensity cardio thing that's it has me gasping, and I've been getting better at it. So it's
Those are actually really good.
Yeah, I like it, and so I don't go on runs outside or at a track or anything, but I do cardio.
It's like you do a million fucking push-up variations and then like a bunch of squats and then fucking like rest for 30 seconds and then do like a fucking million push-ups.
It's not really like engaging muscles that intensely like for legs it does, but it's not really engaging muscles. Like you're not doing full push-ups. It would be you start off like it'd basically be like doing
it's
like
so much volume that it becomes cardio. Like it's the same as cardio.
It's like
I did those during the pandemic. Recently, I was attending a sort of a amateur wrestling class, which was on Mondays and Wednesdays. So as the least valuable day, I removed Tuesday from my program, and I just do a few chin-ups on the other days. And this is what the weeks looked like. I fail lifts if I don't sleep 8 hours, and that's especially important for the lift you specialize in. But obviously on rest days and day 2 of my program, you can get away with 6 or 7 hours. Everyone's different, but I also fail lifts if I go first thing in the morning. I prefer the afternoon and have seen many people affirm this. I'm trying to drink fewer energy drinks these days, but on day 1, I'll usually get a sugar energy drink. It's something like 400 to 800 calories a couple hours before. My diet consists of a fucking shit ton of milk. Like I go through a gallon cum jug every 4 to 5 days. I don't have many dietary restrictions and I don't count calories, but it's usually fucking a lot. I try to keep daily sugar intake relatively modest, like around 80 grams.
Like refined sugar? Processed sugar? Like refined carbohydrates?
I mean like all sugars, but that's approximate. Like maybe it's 100 grams.
So
Also, I have a quick question. A few sentences ago, did you say the words gallon cum jug?
Yeah.
What the fuck? What does that mean?
Gallon of milk.
Okay. Okay, cool.
That's what they call it.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I got one of those right here. Milk maxing is... You need to get on that if you're not doing that.
Milk is the food of the gods.
It is. It is. It's nature's protein shake.
Yep. If you want to trim down rapidly for whatever reason and be in a deficit all the time for a long period of time, you're just not going to be at your sharpest, and you'd better be surrounded by people you trust and only dealing with them and nobody else. Hopefully you don't need to do even everyday things like exchange your money for goods and services in a place where you're likely to be upsold. A person on a diet is probably more susceptible to that sort of thing or anything like that. While I don't know everything or even all that much at all about nutrition, people seem to be misinformed about the value of vegetables so that they can sell you more snake oil. A lot of those nutrients are found in like meat and dairy products. They're so low in calories and mostly water. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I consume mostly meat and dairy, but I think that vegetables have like valuable stuff in them. Although I don't know.
Yes, they are high in nutrients, but those nutrients are also, they're not exclusive to vegetables.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But I think like consuming like a certain amount of fiber and stuff is also good for you, like for your digestion.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that too.
Also, bacteria. You need to consume lots of bacteria, which is found in vegetables and fruit. So it'll keep your microbiome nice and healthy, and then your brain is connected to your gut microbiome. So eating vegetables will keep your gut healthy, and then your brain healthy, and then everything works together well.
Right, and that aspect of it you wouldn't be able to get from like supplementing the vegetable nutrients, like the microbiome.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you like take microbiome pills, which don't exist.
Do either of you use protein powder at all? I haven't in a long time.
So I've tried like so many different brands anyway, and it always has like the most egregious like toxic waste, like Chernobyl elephant's foot ingredients in it that are piss me off every time I look at that. So I haven't had protein powder in a long time. It's best to just go with milk. And you know what's a shame though is that I know that milk, like the modern man's milk that you find in the grocery store isn't always the best for you either. Not just because of it's like homogenized and processed, some of it, but also often it's stored in plastic, so you're having that sort of rubbing off into the milk supply as well. They're putting chemicals in the milk supply. And it's a shame. Yeah, and it's a shame that you can't sell like raw milk. Like it's illegal in most places to sell, which is absolutely crazy. Because I could go down the street a few blocks from where I am and end up at a safe injection site for crack. But for raw milk, they're not giving me a safe injection site for raw milk. Where's my safe administration site for raw milk? It doesn't exist. The safe injection sites for heroin are so close to me, I could strip naked and run down the street and I wouldn't get frostbite by the time I reach the location. And it's winter. You can't do that because they're scared that you're going to get too strong of an immune system from the bacteria, and then you won't need hospitals and big pharma. So
Real world.
yeah.
I know that they're putting chemicals in everything, and I know that I'm not an expert on nutrition, but people don't notice that even if it comes in green packaging and shit, it's usually got just the same fucking chemicals in it. Like, you can't win with that. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, at some point you just have to consume the stuff, like the best of the evils or whatever. You just have to find the one that's like the least messed up.
Have you ever wondered how often an immigrant whose first language isn't English walks into a restaurant and orders like a vegan sandwich because they aren't aware of like the terminology of what Beyond means?
Yeah, that would be pretty funny. Probably happens.
Probably happens like every day.
Beyond Meat, it's super advanced meat. It's super meat. There's twice as much meat per square nano inch than per square nanometer than regular meat. It's beyond. It's super advanced, right? Cool. That's how it works.
Yeah.
There's so much meat that the space between the atoms that makes up the meat is like half as long. Like the distance between the atoms, like they're basically closer to each other than normal because there's so much meat packed into there. It's just beyond. It's like quantum meat.
Yeah, the protein molecules vibrate faster so that they get into your cells and then undergo protein synthesis faster. They give you bigger muscles, and then it increases contractile tissue density, and then it makes you stronger, and then it also exhibits higher optical activity in your retina, which gives you better vision. So it basically just turns you into a superhuman.
Exactly.
Yeah. We need
is
to
what they'd like you to think, but in reality it just turns you into it's basically just like a sissification brick that you eat.
Also, one thing to consider is that while your life may be prolonged by eating better, when you're dining on something that fucking shortens your lifespan, it also sometimes saves you the time of preparing it and fucking cleaning up after yourself. perhaps the greater crime of these fast food giants, in my opinion, is the standardized soulless architecture they're housing their business in, making everything the same across America and across the world.
Yeah, McDonald's, the McDonald's, back in the day in like the 80s, they used to look like a theme park. Like there was, it was all colorful and there were mascots and like slides. I mean, they still have the playground in some of them, but nowadays it just looks like it looks like a
Prison.
prison, insane
Yeah,
asylum. Yeah,
a funny farm.
yeah. It's like Arkham Asylum for fat people. If you want to cut down the time that it takes to like cook meat and stuff, like the amount of time in your day that you're spending like making meals for yourself, one of the things that you can do is you can start dog food maxing, where you just eat dog food like a supplement. And I thought, when I first thought of this, I was like, you know, that's kind of crazy. That doesn't make any sense, because aren't humans not allowed to eat dog food? Like you're always told as a kid, like don't eat the pet food or whatever. And then I actually start looking at the ingredients of these things. I look at the ingredients of these things, and there isn't anything in there that like a human can't consume. It'll literally just be like cubes of like dried beef liver and sodium, and it's like if you were to pop like 3 of those like beef liver dog treats every day, that would be like your source of iron. You'd be good to go. You wouldn't even have to bother like cooking organ meat, which is extremely good for you. And you don't have to cook it. You just take it out of yourself and just, you know, have a treat or whatever here and there. So I think dog food maxing is also viable if you're on a budget and you're trying to save time. Actually, not on a budget, because fucking pet food's expensive. But if you're trying to save time, and you're willing to spend a little bit more money, you know, pulling some dog food out of your pantry and, you know, popping a treat, it's not a bad idea. It'll get you right.
I do plenty of walking. I'm lucky enough to have always lived reasonably close to a body of water, and that's great incentive for walking regularly, which everyone should try to do. Mobility is essential as you age. When you lose your mobility, people start to bury you already.
That's right. You know, most men die when they're 45. They just get buried when they're 80.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And if challenges ever arise, go ahead and take them. A few years back, I came across an abandoned couch that I wanted, so I carried it to my house single-handed. If you're considering doing something, ask yourself if you'll regret not doing it.
Yeah.
Alright, that's all I have to say for today. I know there's no shortage of people stronger than me, but I'm sure I've said at least something worth hearing.